In 1997, I underwent eye surgery for a detached retina in my left eye. Thanks to a terrific ophthalmological surgeon and medical team at the University of Chicago hospitals, the operation was completely successful. However, the recovery period was a psychological ordeal because I was not permitted to read, to use my computer in my professional writing career, nor even to watch television. After a few days of that, I began to think that my mind was going into zombie mode and that I'd never write nor even think again. To offset that mood, my loving wife Joanne took me out of the house every day and, despite my bandaged eye, which embarrassed me tremendously, trotted me around our neighboring park, Calumet Park, or around the streets of nearby downtown Whiting, Indiana, to stimulate my mind a bit, but I was still unconvinced that I would ever get in gear again. Given that I was, at that time, theater correspondent for the Hammond Times, that had ominous implications. On the days that Joanne drove us into Calumet Park, we would pass a small group of people who clustered around what looked like a handmade sundial mounted on top of a small tree stump. Finally, after several days of driving past it, I unexpectedly, to both of us, asked Joanne to turn around and go back to that site, where I got out of the car because suddenly I just had to know what it was all about. I approached the man, whose name was Alphonse Juarez Jr., better known as J.R., who appeared to be, and it turned out truly was, the key person involved in a group known as the Calumet Park Beach Bums. That first interview was doubly important to me. First, it satisfied a curiosity that had been nagging away at me since the first time I had seen the sundial, long before my surgery. Secondly, it demonstrated to me that my mind had not quit, nor had my curiosity gone into retirement, and that was a vitally important realization after weeks of almost complete mental inactivity, at least in terms of creativity. By the time that I was able to bring a video camcorder into the situation, a petty Park District subminor luminary had had the sundial tree arrangement disposed of. The fact that many of those names engraved on the sundial represented deceased group members, many of whom had done much to protect the park from vandals on their made the bureaucratic vandalism even more offensive. Fortunately, J.R. and his team of elves had relocated it and removed it to a safe location far from the Park District, where it survived long enough for this recording to be made.
I'm running this thing now to get a test run of the remnants of the site that was dedicated to the Calumet Park Beach Bums. Tree stump that had been left after a lightning storm severed the tree, where the group had met for years. And now this cross and memorial are here to commemorate the fact that one of the Park District officials just bulldozed the site totally and took their stump out, or at least demolished it, and they had to remove it. And we'll try to get some of the history of the Beach Bums and the background on the site. Real world recording, folks. Background of the site after JR shows up. To get an idea of where we are, I'm going to do a panoramic run around here. We're looking west right now into the city. The lake is behind us. Coast Guard station is over here to the left. I can't see it because my glasses are too dark, but it's over there behind those trees. The South Works facility and the Indiana Harbor, or the Illinois Harbor facility are to the north there, and the lake is to the east. And this is where the group normally meets.
Started out to be a little pet project, but it just started growing and growing, and before you know it, we started adding more and more to it. It started out with just a basic stump, and then the cross piece on top was added, and then the final piece that we added to the stump itself was the tabletop.
And that has CB, that's Charlie Brown's initials on
Charlie
it.
Brown's initials in there, and there's a G up in the right-hand corner there. That stands for Gloria.
Okay.
Uh,
That Gloria too.
yeah.
Let's get the headpiece here. Let me see if I can move where you are, so I get it kind of level.
Started adding the all the other things. The names. Everybody started adding their names there, and the names that you can see or be able to make out, the ones with the little crosses are the ones that passed away. People that used to come out to the park and hang out, they passed away for one reason or another. A couple of them died of cancer. One of them died of suicide, and another one died from drowning.
The medals of the Marine I'm shooting now.
Yeah.
Understand anything about that?
Well, that was added by one of the Marine Corps veterans. He had it in his car, and he wanted to add it to the stump. I added the flag and the picture of the medals that you see on top.
Yes.
That was of a former Korean War veteran in the Marine Corps. He asked me if I would add a picture of his medals.
Okay.
So I told him that I would, but I would have it laminated first. This way it would last a lot longer.
For sure.
As you can see, it has. It lasted in the park for approximately 15 months.
From the time the lightning struck the tree?
From the time that the storm knocked the tree down.
Okay.
And I was able to save part of the tree.
I'm going across the cross piece now, and I can't even tell for sure what I'm seeing, but I'm going slowly from the part with a little bit of shadow on it now. Mm-hmm. Then there's an SE, and I can't quite make it out. What is that?
That's an abbreviation for Sergio.
Okay.
It's SERG.
Okay.
And then you've got Marco. You also have, in magic marker above that, you have Charlie Brown.
Okay.
Up in the upper left-hand corner, you have one of the beach bums that passed away. His name is Yayo, Y-A-Y-O. And his brother, who donated the Marine Corps license plate, is below him, Tony.
Okay. Did I meet Tony the other day?
Yes, you did. You met him yesterday. Okay. That was his brother that passed away, the one that's in the upper left-hand corner.
Is there a Rita on there?
There's a Rita, and then you have a JR, which is mine.
Okay.
We have to have the designer's name on it.
Okay, sure.
And if you go all the way around the stump, you'll probably see several names from A to Z. Benji is right above the bolt there. That's also one of the brothers of the deceased.
Okay.
We have a couple of Marcos. We have duplicates on some of the names. We have several Tonys. We have a couple of Marcos. We have one guy here on the stump that's died of a stroke while he was on the gambling boat.
Oh, wow.
His ship finally came in, and he ended up dying on the ship. He was spending some of his... He received some sort of a settlement from a medical malpractice suit.
Uh-huh.
And he was enjoying the fruit. A heart attack on the ship, and he went into a coma, and he never recovered from it. They had him on a life support system, so they had to pull the plug on him.
What's the significance of the connector on there?
Oh, the connector. The significance of the connector was that everybody used to say that when are we going to get cable, seeing as we have every other thing. We have all the other
amenities. Huh?
Amenities. They kept on saying, well, when are we going to get cable? And I was walking along the tracks just alongside Cal Park, and I found a couple of these connectors, so I just nailed them on there just to add a little humor to it.
Okay.
And everybody, you'd be surprised how many people really believe that we did have. Upper left-hand corner is of a personal friend of ours. He was
this one here. Now.
Yeah, his name is Larry Alonzo. You may or may not be able to make the name out.
I can make out the Larry for sure.
Yeah, and he's got a little cross there. He was a personal friend of ours. He always seemed to kind of look out for us and make sure that, no problems ever came our way. and if they did, he would correct them, and he was always a good friend to us. And it wasn't beyond him to stop and having a couple beers with us or something and just chit-chat and more or less promote a good feeling between the police department.
So he was an
And,
officer.
oh, he was an officer of the police department. He retired, went to Las Vegas. For some reason or another, things didn't work out for him, so he put a gun to his head and killed himself.
Oh, that's tragic. I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, and this, right in the right-hand corner, this is our resident painter, Wags. I don't know if you've ever met him.
I don't think
He's the
so.
one that does most of the painting around
It's
the
on
east
here?
side. Yeah.
Okay, hang on a second.
He has his little logo. He uses, he incorporates the easel in his name. His name is Wags.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can tell, I don't know if you can tell or not.
I can make it out some, but
Yeah,
I've got a problem here that I'm using a black and white. But let
Jeez.
me make sure I'm getting it now. Okay.
Been known to come out from time to time and spend some time with us. We're just like one big happy family.
And
There is no age distinction. You know, we go from 18 to 80.
There's an M and some other stuff right up close to the cross piece.
M.
It looks like an M, yeah.
No.
Up there.
You have a Tuno, which is one of the Park District employees that also
Okay.
hangs out with us. And below his name, you have a Gamma, which is vertically going up.
Uh-huh.
He is also one of the deceased. He was one of the beach bums that passed away right across the street. Approximately about 4 years ago, what happened about maybe 1994 on October 3rd. I may or may not be right on a year. Maybe
Okay.
93, maybe 94. I know time passes so fast. And that's pretty much what it's all about.
Calumet Park Beach Bums. How did it all start?
Well, the Calumet Park Beach Bums actually started around back in 1980 when the steel mills closed up. We had a lot of people that were unemployed and had a lot of time on their hands. And on March 28, 1980, they locked the gates in the steel mill, and they
Was that Wisconsin Steel?
Wisconsin Steel. So what happened was a lot of people had time on their hands, so we more or less started hanging out at the beach that summer, and that was basically the start of the Cal Park Beach Bums. We had T-shirts made using the we were using the copper tone logo of the little girl with the dog pulling her bathing suit down. We used their logo, and on the T-shirts we had Cal Park Beach Bums 1980. I still got an old shirt around, but the hats, I don't know what happened to the hats. We had hats and T-shirts, and it pretty much blossomed from there. We had people coming and going. There's a changeover every year. Every year, new people come, and every year some people leave, and then sooner or later, eventually, it comes full circle. Usually, people that have been gone for years will suddenly show up and spend a little time with us, and then they'll go back to whatever they were doing. But for some reason or another, everybody seems to come back to Cal Park, and they always seem to come back looking for old friends and old good times. The tree has been one of the most photographed trees from our group, because it seems like every picture you look at from the Cal Park Beach Bums, the tree is involved in there somehow. It, in a way, it becomes invisible because you don't really notice it until it's gone. And the day that the storm knocked it down, the city came in and chopped it up and got rid of it in one day. So we were unable to save any part of the tree. So what happened right after that, the following year, one of the other trees that we used to hang around, that also got blown over, so I was able to save the stump before the city came in and chopped it all up and made sawdust out of it, or mulch, or whatever it may be. So that's how the project started, and it started out as just as a seat, and then I started stripping the bark, and people started helping, and they started coming up with ideas for this and that, and then finally somebody came up and said, why don't we make a monument out of it to the people that are no longer with us. So in a sense, it's dedicated to the Cal Park Beach Bums, past, present, and future, because there always seems to be a change, and we've always got young kids coming in, and we've got old timers coming around, we've got young kids hanging around. It's just more or less just like a family atmosphere, and it just keeps continuing. I hope it keeps going as long as I'm living anyways, because it's a nice thing to be able to go to the park and enjoy yourself and just come back with pleasant memories.
You mentioned to me that out in the water there are some pilings, steel pilings.
Mm-hmm.
that have members' names on them. How did that come about?
Well, that came about because we were just sitting along the beach one day, and we were saying it would be kind of nice to go out there and just put our names on there. So one of the beach bums had a can of spray paint, so we swam out there and put every beach bum's name out there. There's a couple of names that are missing now because of the waves and that knocked them down, but there's quite a few can be still made out, and the paint seems to be holding up pretty well. It was painted in the summer of 1980, and 18 years later, you can still see the names. If you use a pair of binoculars, you can still make out whose names are on which pole. And of all the people whose names are on the pole, there are only 2 that are still active members. The rest have gone their way and have gone into different careers or whatever things they want to do in life. They've just moved on, but they do come back from time to time.
You mentioned too that you became sort of a Coast Guard auxiliary.
Yeah, that's right. The commander, his name is Dave Ginsberg, stopped by to converse with us, and he was telling us that he always sees us out here, and he always seems that we always keep our area nice and clean and more or less in order, and we don't cause any problems with anybody. And he mentioned that he would like to make us honorary Coast Guard auxiliary. So fortunately, one of the guys said, well, if we're going to be the Coast Guard auxiliary, we're going to have a flag. So he donated a flag to the cause. So now we're honorary Coast Guard auxiliary. And anytime we see anything that may be of importance to them, we'll notify them and tell them that what the situation is, or if there's someone in need of help or whatever. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, there was a sailboater coming in who didn't have his sails up, and he seemed to be headed for the rocks. So a friend and myself ran down to the rocks to make sure that he wasn't going to wash up against the rocks. Fortunately, he was able to start up his trolling motor and get out of the way before he ran into some problems on the rocks. That's just one of the things that happens normally around Cal Park.
I didn't lead off with your name, JR. For the record, who are you? Tell us your
Well,
name.
everybody knows me as JR. My real name is Alphonse Juarez Jr. That's where the JR comes in. I guess everybody more or less came up with a nickname, and that's mine.
Anything else I haven't asked you that you want to put on the record?
Right now, I can't think of anything, really. What I don't understand, for the record, is why something like this, which I think is a thing of beauty. Another thing I forgot to leave out is the base. We had a base in a heart shape, and it was filled in with gravel. And Charlie Brown and myself went through great lengths to make the base as good looking as possibly can. As a matter of fact, we were gonna dye the rocks red, white, and blue for the 4th of July. Unfortunately, we never got a chance to. I can't understand why the city would want to come and take something like this, which is a thing of beauty, which has received so many praises from people going by. Now I look at the people's faces, and they're looking for it, and it's not there.
Piece of history is gone.
It's a piece of history that's gone. I see them looking, and I can read their lips, and they say it's not there anymore.
Thank you, JR.
That's about it.
Thank you.
A sad footnote to this video is that JR himself died in October 2013 after a long struggle with several serious health issues. A new segment added to this video shows the temporary material that was erected on the Beach Bums turf and tolerated for a few days by park officialdom before JR's friends removed most of it. In 1980, when Wisconsin Steel shut its doors peremptorily and permanently, a small group of the displaced workers found strength not in tearing down the buildings nor the society that might have been blamed for permitting the brutal actions of its final owner, but in developing a mutual support mechanism that came to be known as the Calumet Park Beach Bums, a social mechanism that sustained and revitalized its members through lean and dark decades before new possibilities began to emerge from the graveyard of major steel industry in southeast Chicago. Alphonse Juarez Jr., Jr., was a key contributor to that sustaining and rebuilding process. Thanks, JR.